Hi, thanks for checking out the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Today, we're gonna go over some of the key points during a home inspection. I get a ton of questions about that from buyers and sellers that I work with. So I figured, why not get an expert here with us today? So I brought in Jimmy Bitzes to answer all of our questions.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so when I'm working with either sellers or buyers, I get questions as to, what are the different types of inspections? We've got a regular inspection, a 4-point, and a wind mitigation. Can you kind of unmask those a little?
All right, so basically a regular inspection is when you're buying a house and you want to get a list of things that are deteriorating, things that need to be replaced, and things just aren't working, like a dishwasher or something. A 4-point inspection, it's for insurance companies, and so is a wind mitigation. A 4-point, they want to make sure that the basics are working. The air conditioner is working. They want to make sure that the electrical panel is in good shape and there's no burnt wires in there. They want to make sure there's no recall panels like a Zinsco panel or Federal Pacific, and now, Challenger panels they're having a hard time with.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then they want to say the roof. Okay, we go up on the roof, we look at the roof, we look at the age, and we look at the condition. And now we have to figure out, estimate how much life it is. And insurance companies want, like Citizens used to be 3 years, but they recently changed it to 5 years. So they want to make sure that the roof has at least 5 years of life left, or they're not going to insure it. So basically, and then plumbing. They want to make sure that you don't have polyurethane plumbing in there, or cast iron, or plumbing like that. Like polyurethane plumbing was used from I think it started in '76 and they used it till '86. Okay. But so they're looking for problems like that: roof, AC, electrical, and plumbing. And it's not as thorough as a regular home inspection. It's not like we're turning on the air conditioner, we're making sure it's working, make sure it's not making any noise, it's blowing out cold air. On a regular home inspection, we're going to actually measure the output from every register to see how cold it is when it's blowing out and if the registers are working. So that's a 4-point. A wind mitigation is also an insurance inspection, and basically what they're looking at is they want to know the shape of the roof, okay? Is it a hip roof? So basically a hip is like a pyramid kind of style. Okay. And then they want to know if it has what's called clips or straps, which basically, if the wind gets underneath something, the uplift, how much could that roof hold before it blows off during a hurricane? And the reason why we have these in Florida is because of hurricanes. So we have to go in there and so we see a lot of houses that do have clips, but the problem is they put 2 nails in. Now the insurance companies want to have 3 nails. So there's actual companies out there, they go into the attic and they put it's called a third nail company. They'll go in there and they'll put the 3rd nail in there because we have to take photos of the nails on the clips or the straps. If it's a strap that goes over the rafters, there has to be 2 nails on one side and 1 nail on the other side.
Okay.
So it has to be wrapped around.
Gotcha. And then how do you get the proof of that? How do you even find
Photos. Photos. So we go in the attic and we try to crawl to where the roof slopes all the way down to the walls, and that's where we'll find these. And if we can't make it there, we have poles on GoPros or something, and we use telescopic poles. We go there and we take photos because we have to be able to see the nails.
Wow. Okay.
And then we have to go and we have a metal detector, and then we look at the roof sheathing, and then we follow it to make sure there's a nail every 6 inches. That's how detailed it is.
Wow. Okay. And do they care about I'm assuming they care about the nail size, if it's a 60 or an 8D nail? Right.
Well, code in Florida right now, everybody's using 8D nails, and they're using shank nails, the ones with little rings around it and everything. If it's an older home and it's not sheathing, and say it's just boards up there, and say it's a 6-inch boards all the way across, there has to be at least 2 nails in each board.
Okay.
So now we're looking at that stuff, and we're putting it on a report to send to the insurance company, but then we're going around and saying, hey, do you have impact windows? Do you have shutters for the windows? And if you have shutters, what kind? Are they homemade, like you guys got plywood and you did something? Yeah, you get credit for some of that stuff with some insurance company. Ask your insurance agent. I'm not an insurance agent. Usually, on every inspection I do, when somebody's buying a house, I do a home inspection, a 4-point inspection, and a wind mitigation inspection. The 4-point and the wind mitigation is for insurance. The home inspection is for the buyer.
Okay.
So, but you have to keep it in mind. If it fails a 4-point, okay, like, because on home inspections, we don't say something passed or failed, but on a 4-point, we could say something passed or failed.
Correct.
So,
and that terminology does get screwed up from time to time with realtors, like it didn't pass the inspection. And like Jimmy said, an inspection is not passed. That's information gathering for the property owner if you're doing a pre-inspection, or the potential buyer when you're buying a property. The 4-point and wind are for insurance purposes, and it is a pass or fail inspection.
right. One example of, I went today, did a 4-point inspection. Everything was great. I opened up the panel, and there's a double tap. That means there's 2 wires into 1 breaker. Okay. That's a no good for insurance companies.
Right.
And a lot of people do that because they're just lazy. Meanwhile, if you have room in the breaker box, you go buy a breaker, hire an electrician, don't do it yourself.
But yeah, definitely.
And have an electrician put it in a breaker and separate them. But if there's 2 wires in there, I got to take a picture of it, and then on the 4-point inspection, I have to say unsatisfactory. On a water heater, if it's rusted, even though it's working and it's producing 115 degree hot water coming out, but it's rusted, I have to say unsatisfactory. If a knob is missing, a shutoff knob underneath the kitchen sink or the bathroom,
Unsatisfactory.
Unsatisfactory.
Right.
So what happens is it screws up the deal in this sense.
So what we would do there is we would negotiate concessions. So inside of the inspection period, and we would take the report that Jimmy gave us and says, hey, these are things that are going to potentially prohibit us from getting insurance or getting affordable insurance. And we would attempt to negotiate those concessions to either be repaired, preferably before closing, or we even get a credit at closing towards closing costs and fees to repair those things afterwards. But 4-point wind issues are typically best served to have it done before we close. All right, so I get a lot of phone calls or a lot of questions in regards to like common misconceptions, meaning, what are you looking for in a home inspection? I understand that the inspection is a visual inspection, but you do have some tools. And earlier you mentioned, you test the registers. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how do you test the registers?
So basically, yes, a home inspection is a visual inspection for that particular day and that particular time. So when I go in there and say I inspect a dishwasher and the dishwasher is working, but the next day it breaks. Same thing with an air conditioner. I inspect it, I prove that it's working, because everything when I do a report, I say the good and the bad. So if the air conditioner is working, I'm going to go and shoot with a thermal imaging camera that tells me the temperature, all the registers. And I'm going to take a photo of me doing it. So I'll have the camera pointing towards the register and me taking a picture. If it's a crawl space and it's too dangerous to go in there, I have a remote control crawler that a camera goes on there.
Wow,
goes
that's cool. And that's all because you're a professional, licensed, insured. I would imagine there's varying levels of, home inspectors, just like there are varying levels of real estate agents as far as customer service and what they're going to provide for you.
Right, and I do everything. I treat every house like I'm buying the house.
Exactly.
So if the house, say it's 2 floors, and just too dangerous and too steep of an angle, I have a drone. I fly a drone. Can anybody fly a drone and do a commercial? No, you have to have a license to do it.
Right.
So you have to have a drone pilot's license to use it commercially. Otherwise, you're doing it illegally.
Right. So when you go inside the house and you're conducting an inspection, people do live in houses most of the time.
Right.
So they're going to have furniture, pictures, clothes, that kind of stuff. Now, do you move those kind of things?
No, we don't move anything. We don't shut off main valves. We don't turn breakers. We don't do any of that stuff, because say we go into a house and the people let us in and then at home, and then we turn on a breaker to see where it goes and it catches something on fire. Or say the water's off on the house and we turn it on, saying, we need to test the piping.
Right.
So let's turn on the water. But now they shut it off because there was a leak by the water heater.
Right. The night before, we didn't know it. they didn't get the information to me right away, and you go in and do an inspection. Now we've just caused a giant water leak.
Basically, it's a visual inspection. Windows, outlets. We look for wiring issues in the attics, electrical panel. We look how much insulation is there. We look, make sure the doors are closing. You know, we check the outside. We look for damage for wood rot or something that termites could have caused. So you need, you know, I recommend on every house to get a termite inspection by a professional.
Right, so you do have tools, like you go in and you have a tester for the outlets and stuff, almost like a multimeter, and then you're a fact finder.
Yeah.
So you're like, so let's say, like you said, the termites. Okay, now we're gonna get a WDO expert out there, which is a wood destroying organism expert out there, and then we're gonna do further investigation. That's the point of the home inspection, is to find all the problems, if there are any, get a report back on them, and then if we have to call in further experts, that's what we do. And that's part of that due diligence portion of the contract when we buy a house. When we're conducting the inspections, to kind of to touch back on the visual portion of it, you know, sometimes I hear from previous customers of mine, they've closed on a house, now they're doing some renovations, and I get a phone call, hey Bill, you know, I saw some old termite damage, or you know, there was some old water damage behind a cabinet or something along those lines. Can you touch on that a little bit?
So here it is. If somebody's living in the house, the inspector can't move things. So, you know, there might be damage behind clothing, behind boxes, behind toolboxes and garages. And it's important to understand that the benefit of a home inspection is, even if the home inspector comes in there and finds one or two things, those one or two things could cost thousands of dollars to replace them down the road, or fix them. So that's what your hope is. Is it a perfect science? No, it's not. Home inspectors are humans, and they're only visual. I mean, yes, they can go in with a thermal imaging camera and look at temperature differentials in the ceilings and do all that stuff. But again, at the end of the day, it's a visual inspection. The benefit of a home inspector is they know what to look for. They've been in so many houses. I can tell you right now in Florida, if you go into a house in Florida and you go into the garage and there's a side entrance and it's a block home with a door, if you open up that door and you look in the corner over there, you're gonna see a rotten door.
Yep.
Okay,
it's almost on every home.
Yeah, over 90% of the time. I know if you're gonna walk around a house and then you can see some little stress cracks, you know, and the house is stucco here in Florida. Some people are saying, oh my God, sinkhole. But it could just be stucco that's cracking, you know, and not the blocks on the inside. So that's the reason why it's important to have a home inspection, because the home inspector knows what to look for. Is it a perfect thing, like I said before? No, it's not a perfect thing. Nothing is perfect, but it could save you thousands of dollars.
Right, so you're putting together a whole picture when you're doing your inspections on, you know, those deficiencies that you do find. It's not just any one specific thing, you know, to touch on the sinkhole
It's an opinion.
Issue. It's an opinion.
It's an opinion.
And then we call in experts. So just like my opinion, if you've worked with me in the past, and you'll hear it if you work with me in the future, I am a strong believer in home inspections, and it's you're gonna be hard pressed to convince me otherwise. They're worth every single penny, in my opinion. And so that's pretty much it on this one. If you've got any comments, questions, please feel free to leave them below and we'll answer them. If you want to talk to Jimmy about some home inspections, reach out to me and I'll send over his contact information. And until next time, I appreciate you watching the video, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me. Bye.